The original Witcher holds a very special place in my heart. When it comes to the Witcher series, it seems all everyone ever talks about is of course the third entry, and I can't blame those people. The Witcher 3 was not only a great game in its own rights, but it also set the standard for what to expect from AAA developers these days. But 10 years ago, there was a title that both set up this fantasy franchise and put CD Projekt Red on the map. A whisper, almost. You could faintly hear it. I'm of course talking about the first Witcher. To the common audience, much is actually unknown about The Witcher, as it was a very small-time, undercover hit game, and the first game of CDPR. The Witcher acted as a continuation of the very famous Polish book series of the same name, which followed the adventures of Geralt of Rivia, a man who was transformed into a Witcher through various experiments forced on him as a child. Witchers are humans, tasked with fighting monsters on behalf of humanity, even though they themselves are viewed as monstrosities by most of the public. Despite the intriguing premise of this new IP, it appears that many people are just unaware of the very first Witcher game. That could be because it was and continues to remain a PC exclusive compared to the console releases of its sequels, or maybe due to a bad reputation courtesy of its clunky combat system. But regardless, I personally feel that this game is actually still worth checking out, in spite of its aging not quite as well as a fine wine. This is a brief look into the original Witcher, 10 years later. The original Witcher acts like a sequel to the book series, which in itself runs about 5 main novels. But books don't always transition well to games, as following their stories to the T often doesn't give developers the freedom to develop their own spin on the subject material. So CDPR resolved this issue by giving Geralt amnesia. He has no memory of the events that transpired beforehand. Because of this, The Witcher itself gains a very interesting elements of role-playing through an overarching side quest called Identity, which involves players inputting who they feel Geralt is as a person. This might seem like an odd thing to implement, given that The Witcher is a linear game, but there are choices Geralt will have to make that have a surprising impact on the narrative. Things involving such timely themes as discrimination, helping immoral people, and whether or not the ends justify the means.
I should be like the city guards. Release criminals whenever someone shakes a coin pouch.
These things are all interwoven into a beautiful story, broken up into 5 chapters that the writers at CDPR clearly put a lot of effort into. Geralt is someone who certainly wants to do the right thing, but finds that the world he's woken up to isn't exactly black and white. There's a bunch of gray areas chock full of a depressing darkness that players will have to face, from a shocking betrayal of a friend to uncovering the horrible secrets of what the villagers were doing in the outskirts. It's engaging, but definitely morbid. The Witcher is a great concept, both beautiful and dark, but that vision must come to life on the screen through gameplay. I mentioned the combat earlier. It's not something that is looked back on fondly, but to be honest with you guys, I personally didn't have any major problems with it. It involves a lot of timed clicking to execute combos, which may seem like an archaic process for sure, but there is a surprising variety, from the different attack methods, to the multiple weapons and spells at your disposal, to even being able to jump over enemies. But I also realize that it's not a system everyone's gonna like, especially if you've played the sequels, or if you like action-focused games, so keep that in mind. No, my real concerns with the first Witcher involve minor things that add up as you play. For starters, there's no real way to tell when you're approaching a final mission in a chapter. Unlike the Mass Effect and Borderlands series, which distinguish side quests from the main story, in The Witcher you can very well end up accidentally finishing a chapter without doing everything available. And areas are often locked off after a chapter ends, so it's not like you can go back when you're done. I lament skipping over a lot of content as a first-time player, especially in cities where certain houses will give you a new quest if you enter them at a specific time, like a ghost story in Vizima. And on top of that, there's no real autosave. I know it's something that PC fans cherish, but having to constantly manually save can get very tiresome, especially since it'll take you around 50 hours to complete the game, and the fact that autosave has been around and had been around for years prior to The Witcher. The Witcher was also supremely advanced for its time. In 2007, it was uncommon for a game to build a living world, to have NPCs leave their home during the day and drink beers at the tavern at night, where merchants would haggle you from across the street and guards didn't act like robots. A world that made sense at each minute of the day. CDPR was actually able to achieve this vision, but just barely. The Aurora engine housing the game struggled to bring the game to life, with the studio later saying that we had huge ambitions that extended well beyond the capabilities of BioWare's engine. However, there is one real graphical hitch that really bothered me a lot, and that is the draw distance. It's tolerable when you're in a city or an open plain, but the second you enter the swamp or a field of wheat, it becomes simply unbearable. Just when you think you're getting closer to your objective, something will pop out of nowhere and obstruct your path. It's frustrating, especially when those things are enemies. Now, this video wouldn't be complete without a small discussion on the erotic cards. To those who haven't played the game, whenever you successfully romance a character, Geralt is given a beautifully drawn card of the girl in an erotic position, which you can view through the menu. Is it appropriate? Maybe not, but is it hot and sexy? Yep. Luckily, these were dropped in the sequels, but if you're a female gamer interested in picking up The Witcher, keep this feature in mind. In spite of these cons, The Witcher to me remains one of the better video games ever created. Geralt represents a lot to us, people who want to do some good in this world but find ourselves burdened by society and humanity as a whole. You will be sent to numerous exotic locations trying to unravel the mysteries that the local communities have worked to keep hidden, and the answers are often not for the faint of heart. Getting into the groove of the standoff combat system will take some time, specifically for us Witcher 3 fans, but honestly, once you do, you will find yourself given so many methods for dealing with the enemies, all with their unique sets of upgrades. It's great fun if you take the time to appreciate the system. If The Witcher was priced at $60, I would still recommend it, but luckily you will often find it significantly discounted on Steam. At the time of this video's publication, you can get it for $10. What else can I say? It still holds up after 10 years. Thanks for watching, guys. I know I've done quite a few Witcher videos on this channel in the last couple months, but this is probably going to be the last one. But do me a favor and drop a comment down below telling me about your favorite Witcher experience. Have a great day, and we'll see you on our next video.